Days with Mark. Congressman Mark Pocan will be taking your calls for the entire hour. Our telephone number 202-808-9925. He represents the 2nd District of Wisconsin. Former co-chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, currently member in good standing. He's on the Appropriations, Education, and Labor Committees in the House. Pocan.house.gov is his website. You can tweet him at Rep. Mark Pocan, P-O-C-A-N. And Congressman, welcome back to the program. Happy New Year. I think this is the first time we've talked in this new year. And thanks so much for joining us. What's on your mind this morning?
Well, a lot of the stuff you just brought up that you're going to be talking about today. We just had an Appropriations Committee meeting, and of course, we don't have the exact ratios to even form committees yet. But a lot was given away for Kevin McCarthy to get his goal, which his goal wasn't to help the American people or to pass legislation around any issue. His goal was to become Speaker. And in doing so, he pretty much sold out the store in some areas, took away his powers, is going to put some, interesting people on important committees. But at the end of the day, his margin is so tight, it's going to be very hard for him to govern. We still have a Democratic Senate, Democratic president, so it's going to be a lot of investigations we're assuming will be coming very soon. But all those things are in play right now in Congress, and they're passing a bunch of legislation that's going nowhere other than forming some of these committees that are going to, again, just go into more investigations. It's going to be an interesting 2 years, Tom. Sorry I couldn't be on the program last week, but we were on the floor with trying to figure out what Kevin McCarthy was going to do. And after 15 ballots, I guess thanks to George Santos, he's Speaker.
Has anybody seen the secret 3-page addendum to the House rules that we're hearing about?
So what happened is I got a printout earlier that is in the appropriations area. Someone must have got some information from some slides perhaps that were offered, and we have a little idea in some areas, but he gave away a lot, and I bet you a lot that they're smart enough not to put in print. Quite honestly, Tom. So I don't know if everything will be in print ever that he gave away, but we know. He thanked Donald Trump and Matt Gaetz, the guy who kept insulting him on the floor. I don't know. All I know is Kevin's going to now have at least something new on a business card, and I think good for him, but not maybe so good for the House of Representatives.
Yeah. Has the Democratic Party come up with any kind of a strategy to deal with the potential shutdown? There's two ways that they can shut down our government. One is by refusing to pass a budget at the end of the fiscal year, in the end of September. The other is refusing to raise the debt ceiling. Right. The debt ceiling one, there's that $1 trillion coin idea. There's the 14th Amendment, Section 4, which says that the debt of the United States shall not be questioned, which would arguably mean that the whole debt ceiling thing from the 1950s is unconstitutional. I've also heard suggestions that the Treasury Department could simply issue some new, maybe perhaps higher than normal interest bonds and raise a whole pile of cash real quickly that way. Have you guys been strategizing? I realize it's going to be a couple months down the road, but what are the plans?
Well, in fact, one of the items on the slide that we got was that they said they wouldn't do anything about the debt limit without getting some other concessions. So we don't know what that means. So clearly that's their intention. Tom, if I were a betting man, and I occasionally am, I would bet that they would actually love the idea of a government shutdown, right? I've been through that when I first got here with John Boehner.
2011?
Well, and after that, we had it also. I remember missing my deputy chief of staff's wedding as I was here on a Saturday night during one of the shutdowns that we had. So, we know that there's an element of their caucus that doesn't actually believe in governing, but loves stunts like that. And I would anticipate that they're going to very seriously consider that. And McCarthy won't care because he doesn't care about much other than that title he just got. So, I think we are going to look at every option, but we're already anticipating that's going to be one of the problem areas that's going to be coming up around the debt ceiling in particular.
Yeah. The op-ed I wrote today is, basically pointing out that this committee to investigate the weaponization of the government is not unlike the Senate Permanent Committee on Investigations that Joe McCarthy was the chair of. Which was not unlike the House Un-American Activities Committee that 3 years before McCarthy started his gig had subpoenaed 10 writers from Hollywood, and one of them, Ring Lardner Jr., who was just kind of an obscure screenwriter. You know, his father was more well-known, but wrote an op-ed basically calling them fascists, and they threw him in prison for a whole year for writing that op-ed. And, you know, in fact, it was much milder than the one that I wrote this morning. Do you expect that they will be using their subpoena power? And I mean, they threw 10 people in prison for a whole year, back in the day, and they were called the Hollywood 10. And they weren't, famous movie stars and stuff. These were mostly writers.
Well,
how's this going to play out?
They demanded the same budget and staffing of the January 6th committee for this committee that's just going to investigate nothing but, trying to dig up election stuff. So they're clearly going to use, that's the only thing they can do, right, Tom? We have a Democratic Senate, Democratic president. So, getting rid of 87,000 IRS agents, armed IRS agents that don't exist anyway, any of the other stuff that they've put out there is unlikely to ever become law. In fact, not unlikely, it's almost zero chance of any of it becoming law. However, they do have subpoena powers being in the majority, and they're going to use this, whether it be Hunter Biden going after Department of Justice and the FBI, going after Homeland Security. I think our Republican already introduced a measure to impeach the Secretary of Homeland Security. That's what they're going to spend all their time on, is these investigations. So we're going to have lots of fodder. The good news is we have a Democratic Senate, a Democratic president. So the damage, the actual damage will be minimal, but that's not to say there's not damage to our country by going through what they're going to put us through in the coming months.
Yeah, I totally get it.